Hey my peeps, how you doing? Let's get started. So, and loyal viewers, let's get started. Right, this was keeping me up last night. Either I had too much coffee or look up Ynglinga saga on Wikipedia. How does that look? So look up Ynglinga saga on Wikipedia. Massive English kingdom or Germanic kingdom, Swithold the Great. And they went into Sweden, from there Norway, and somehow into England. Is this the lost history of the English language? Let's get started with the video. What are we talking about? Where are you going with this? Right. Title of the video: The Lost History of English, and let's go wild with Khufu. With Khufu. Right. So. Ynglinga saga, very interesting. So where do the English come from? Middle English is a mystery. Now, I did a PhD in English literature, and I recall that. Now, firstly, let's get something clear. The voice of the people, that is, the common people, is absent, pretty much absent, until the publication of books at earliest 1470s, first publication at latest 1490s, especially in Holland and in Britain and possibly northern Italy. Don't know much about the Mediterranean. And these books were sold by stationers. A stationer was someone who sold ink, paper, and as a side hustle, they would sell books to upper and a new middle class who could now afford books because they were printed. Thanks to this earlier form of the Industrial Revolution in Britain, they could now afford books. And the books, many of them are written in English, Middle English, that is medieval English, that is our English. How do I know it's our English? I studied this, and what I noticed was, and this is the first time you start to see the voice of the people. Before that, it's just mainly official documents or chronicles, and that's about it. And these are usually in Latin. From memory, the oldest English I've seen, our English, Middle English, not Old English, different language. The oldest one I've seen is 1100s. And what it was I believe it was in an Anglo-Norman document. It might have been in a French Anglo-Norman document, like a poem or something. Look up Thomas Wright's poems, because my professor put me onto this. He said, look up this Thomas Wright's book to see if there's any legends, myths and legends in there about what you're studying. And I believe it was in parentheses, some author had written in English. It could have been a later edition, but I believe it was 1100s, and I understood that perfectly. Old English, it's a different language. You can't understand it. Furthermore, there is no transition from Old English to Middle English. The transition does not exist. It's as if there were two competing languages in Britain, and by the 1100s or 1200s, this newer version of English was very quickly replacing the older version of English. And once in place, it didn't really change. You can take a medieval book about Robin Hood, a modern person can read that. There's some words different, of course, but you can read that fine. The language, as soon as it appears, it is established. And it doesn't change that much. So you have this mysterious origin of English. So the new theory in this video, and let's call the video a new theory about the origin of English, the lost history, and let's go wild with Khufu because, oh, okay, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. The new theory is this: did the Norman Peasants speak English? Now, I just looked up on Google. Google AI says, no, they spoke Old English. So you have Norman Peasants, that is Northmen, living in France under aristocratic rulers from Norway speaking Old English. You have Angles from Denmark. Oh, they also speak Old English. And then you have Saxons from Germany. Oh, they also speak Old English. They all speak Old English according to official history. So in other words, the language of Norway, Denmark, and Saxony in Germany are all the same language according to official history, but we actually know, today at least, that is not the case. That is not the case, and that does not explain the origin of Middle English. So, again, official history is a story. You could call it a story. Since it's a story, and it doesn't seem to make sense, let's come up with another story, shall we? And people have told me, some say the Old English comes from Asia, Germanic. In the Slav nationalism theories, they tend to say the Germans came out of Asia. The Poles were always there, of course, but they say, the Germans, they came from somewhere else. Now, I'm saying maybe they hopped off Sunken Island, but they say, they came from Asia, and they've got this evidence and so forth. And some of the evidence is the Ynglinga saga. You look up this on Wikipedia, and there's lots of evidence. There's lots of evidence written by Snorri Sturluson. And the saga begins with a description of the Earth's circle. I'm going to read some of it. Inhabited by the human race and divided by great seas running into the land from the out ocean. The Black Sea divides the Earth into 3 parts. So the Black Sea is actually their center of the world, their Jerusalem, a pagan Jerusalem. So something sacred in the Black Sea. Troy? Could it be Troy? Could this be the earlier form of Jerusalem? We all come from Troy. Well, it must have been very sacred. Asia in the east, Europe in the west, and Svitold the Great, or Cold, in the north. The saga distinguishes between Svitold the Great, literally Sweden the Great, where the opening scenes are set, and Sweden proper in Scandinavia, where is the reign of the Ynglings begin. Now, I don't know if there's any connection at all between the so-called Ynglings, that is the younglings, or whatever it is, or the English, and the English language, but it's suspicious. And these people went into Norway. So possibly from Norway to the Norman Peasants, the Northmen, and then into England. Because 100 years after the invasion, I start to see Middle English written in certain isolated surviving documents. Snobs. They started speaking French. They took some French words. Take the English, maybe some of the English words as well, swap them around. And even before this, I've suggested in the past, I believe I've suggested on the channel, and it will be in an upcoming book, that English is based on it was formulated by Druids. This was a language of philosophers, possibly from Asia. And common people wanted their kids. It's like, it's the same as English people today. There's something very elitist about the English that you don't necessarily find on the continent. And it's like, our kids are going to private schools. Oh, we're the old money. We've got the old archaic house. The Englishmen will want to buy the most archaic house they can find and put their family in it to show their ancient lineage, ancient tradition. And there's something about the English language. You can see it was formulated by the Druids, that is the Pythagoreans in continental Europe. But anyway, where were we? Right. The reign of the Ynglings begins in Svitold the Great. That is Asia. These lands differ in a metaphorical sense as well, since the former is called Godheim, or the home of the gods, while the latter is called Mannheim, or the place where the people live. Svitold the Great is a vast territory populated by many races of men, and divided from other lands by a large mountain range going from northeast to southwest. This mountain range, probably referring to the Ural Mountains, lies outside all the inhabited lands, but its southern part is not far from Turkland, probably Khazaria. On the southern side of the mountains runs the river Tanais, formerly known as Tanaskvil, Tanaskvisl, or Vanakissel, the modern-day Don, or the Vana people, which flows into the Black Sea and marks the border between Europe and Asia. The people in the Tanais live in a country called Vanaland or Vanaheim. East of the river in Asia stretches a country called Asaland or Asaheim. The main city of Asland is Asgard, where Odin is chief. 12 temple priests called Diar. Direct sacrifices in Asgard, and also judge the people who serve and obey them. So these priests or druids are in charge. Okay, there we go. We were just talking about that. That was my suspicion. Odin is a great warrior who conquers many kingdoms in all parts of the world, never losing a battle. So he's actually an emperor. Odi, Buddha. Or he's a Buddhist warrior emperor. His men are used to receiving his blessing before going into battle and to call upon his name when fighting in order to inspire themselves. Odin wages war against the Vanaland people but cannot win over them. After doing great damage to each other, both sides agree to a truce and exchange hostages. Thus, the best people of Vanaland are sent to Asaland as hostages. Njord the Rich, his son Frey, his daughter Freya, as well as the wisest men in Vanaland called Kvesa. The people of Asaland in their turn send a wise man called Mime, along with a stout handsome man called Hone, who is allegedly very suitable to become a chief to Vanaland. Hone is immediately made a chief in Vanaland, but people there realize how bad he actually is at taking decisions when not advised by Mime. They decapitate Mime and send his head to Asaland, where Odin smears it with herbs and sings incantations over it, giving it the power to speak and reveal many secrets to Odin. So they got a talking head. Who else had a talking head? What was the name of that? The first scientist, that scientific pope. And there was another pope called Vigilius, or a magician. Yeah, anyway, they had talking heads back then. Anyway, arrival of Odin in Scandinavia. Oh, okay, so they've been pushed out of Asia, decided to go into Scandinavia. Odin has the foresight about the new dwelling place in the north and goes there with all the gods and a great many other people, leaving his two brothers, Vilje and Ve, to rule in Asgard. So two brothers legend again, Vilje and Ve. Okay, like Belinus and Brynus, or the Slavs have a three brothers. Even the East Coast Australian Aboriginals have a 2 or 3 brothers legend because part of them are megalithic people. First, Odin and his companions wander westwards to Gardarika, and from there south to Saxland, where Odin's sons start to rule. Odin goes towards the sea in the north, settles in an island called Odinse in Fein, and sends Gefion to discover new lands in the north in Scandinavia. So look, let's get into it. These people have gone to Scandinavia from Saxland, Saxony, previously from what looks like Belarusia, which they call Gardarika, and before that from Svitold the Great, which is basically all of European Russia. But this is interesting because it's the European part of Russia, not the Turkish part of Russia, which is Vanaland, or Asaland, which we could call Khazaria to these days, which is the eastern Ukraine. Anyway, Odin teaches magic, runes, incantations. He can awaken the dead from the earth, and cause death or disease to anyone. People worship Odin and the other 12 chiefs from Asaland as their gods. So they've gone there and they've taken over Scandinavia. They've added it to their empire. Odin establishes the laws that have been previously observed in Asaland. Dead men should be burned with their belongings. A mound should be raised to memorialize distinguished men, same as the Trojans. Sacrifices should be held on special days in winter and summer. And he goes to Godheim after he dies. And Snorri says the Swedes believe that he has gone to ancient Asgard and would live there eternally. So Asgard is actually Asaland in Asia. It looks, very interesting. It's just further up the river from Stalingrad, about 100 kilometers or 200, 300 kilometers or so. That's interesting. And after him, Njord rules over the Swedes. These could be Slavs because the word Svitold and Svitiod the Great and Swavi, it's not pronounced Slav in the Slav tongue, it's pronounced Swavi, words. And Svithold, Sviden, they're very similar words. Anyway. He's succeeded by his son Dag. Agne, and you can read all this, and it goes on and on. I'm not going to go into it too much. Let's get to the second half of the video. Khufu. These people come from a great kingdom taking up half of Asia, or all of European Russia. Could they not have gone into ancient Egypt? So I've talked about ancient Egyptians speaking English. So I'm going to repeat it one more time for the new viewers, because they're hitting me. Some trolls said pre-Egyptians couldn't have been Germanic because they would have got sunburnt. Okay, that means the English never went to Africa and took over or tried to take over Cape to coast. That means there's no English living in Africa. See, these people, there's something wrong with these people. There's something wrong with them. And if you're one of them, don't watch. Don't watch. You're not going to like it. Get out. Go. I don't want you here. But if you're not, stay. Stay. Right. Khufu. When I was reading the Wallace-Budge dictionary, every page you go to, there is Middle English. Ancient Egyptian words, but they're Middle English words. For example, you find the word desert. It means desert or it means cake. Oh, dessert in English. And you see this on every damn page in the Wallace-Budge dictionary, probably in the newer dictionary as well. And I was thinking, it's a great shame that Wallace-Budge has not actually told us, has not actually stated, he didn't have the guts. And this is something I noticed about scholars. They're very cowardly. Cowards. They're cowardly people. They don't say the truth, okay? They put their personal reputation. Your personal reputation is worthless to anyone. Are these people who you aspire to be in repute with, are they inviting you to dinner? Are they inviting you anywhere? Are they giving you any money? Who cares? This is imagination. Perceived imaginations. Don't worry about it. Tell the truth. So I'm a bit upset that he didn't, Wallace-Budge never, although he was great, he never sought to tell the truth that this is full of English words in ancient Egyptian. So are pre-Egyptians English-speaking Germanic? I've always thought building something as big as the pyramids and as perfect as the pyramids, that's a very Germanic thing to have done. It really is. It really is. With the precision and so forth. And we come to and we've talked about this before. The word pharaoh is close to the word baron. It's also very similar to leader in German. It's also very similar to fairy, which is kind of magician or something like that. And there's many of these examples. So another one, it's been said that Khufu is possibly a title. Yeah. So there are D words for God and giver. Dose. Dol. Diet. I'm giving you your diet. And the root is Deus, God. God is the giver. But there's also G words for giver in English, showing the God word. So give. Giving, giver. But another one, governor. Governor, Gefren. Kefren. Govern. Give. Giver. Khufu and giver. Giver. Let's call it giver. In older English we might call it the word, we might say giver. Giver and Khufu are literally almost the same word, aren't they? So here's the great giver. The giver of the people. His name seems to be, it's either Chinese. Khufu is a Chinese name as well, and Germanics lived in early China, or it's literally an English word. We've talked about English words before. Gaza means chasm in English, and it goes on and on and on. Anyway, did they go from this great empire? Some of them went to Sweden, but what if other ones went to Egypt? And Black Sea was their home. Now that's really interesting. Black Sea is in the center of their map. their holy place. So Black Sea flood 5000 BC, did it push them out? And did it push some in 5000 BC into Egypt? Start working on the Great Pyramid. And with that, I'll end the video. Cheers.